Okay. Yep. Yes. Here we go. Who said real news? It's always a good question. All right. On what is a beautiful Monday. Yep. Here we go. We are live for some real news. Okay. Will we be doing Road Patrol Live later? Yes, we will. There's Garney. Hi there, Pat. There's Josh Allen Cooney. Love the soccer updates. Folks, we're live. There's Evelyn. There's Denise. Yes. Excuse me. Right now, as we speak, we are live on Facebook, on X, on YouTube, and we're about to be live on the radio. Good afternoon, Susan. All right. There's Cheryl Ann. There we go. Folks, I don't understand some people have such a blasé attitude towards crime. I don't get it because to me, it's just such a fundamental, important issue. And I find that so much of um, if you have crime, like what else matters in your, whether it's in a neighborhood or wherever it is. I just don't understand the people that try to minimize it. All right, we are live in just 3 minutes on this Monday, 103. That's true. It's October 21st. That's also true. Now, I want to remind you PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, they're open. Yep. Yes, they are. Stop in and see them. Homegrown mums and kale are outstanding. They also have pumpkins, straw, corn stalks, gourds, Indian corn. And this is the ideal time to plant. Look at it outside. Beautiful weather. Folks, imagine if we could just have this like 5 months a year. By the way, Carmel, California, the weather is like this a good part of the year. I mean, that's why it's probably one of the most desirable places to live in the world. But anyhow, we have it for a short amount of time in October. Stop it and see them. PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, I also want to remind you, did you say you need a new vehicle? Or how about just a new pre-owned vehicle, so to speak? Volare Motors, quality pre-owned vehicles, largest selection of Volvos in Rhode Island, right there, 1003 Park Avenue in Cranston. My friend Paul Staskevich, stop it and see them at Volare Motors. Great prices, fantastic vehicles, great service. Volare Motors in Cranston. They also have a great mechanic. Also, wait a minute. Still time to get your driveway paved. Of course there is. J. Perry Paving. Call them today, 401 732 1730. Get your driveway paved. It'll improve the look of your home. It lasts a very long time. Letter J. J. Perry Paving, 401 732 1730. High quality, fair pricing. J. Perry Paving. All right, we're going to be live on the radio in just a moment. Yes, we'll be active with Road Patrol Live later. We are standing by for JR to give us the go ahead. Folks, those are, and again, visit the website, depetro.com. We have great merchandise available on the website, depetro.com. Someone could put that in the comment. It is right on our online store at the website, depetro.com. So, and there it is at 106. On my goodness, what a beautiful, gorgeous, actually, gorgeous afternoon. It's time for the real news right here. Yes, and we are live on AM 1380. We're live on 99.9 FM. We are live on depetro.com. Click listen live. and we're live right now on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. By the way, easy trick, if you log on to the website, DEPETRO.com, depetro.com, no I's. If you log on, there's links to all the social media right there. It's kind of a clearinghouse. depetro.com on this beautiful Monday. This portion of the program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Homegrown mums and kale are just outstanding this year. They have fall decorations, pumpkins, straw bales, corn stalks, gourds, Indian corn, native vegetables. This is the ideal time to plant. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. They're open 7 days a week. Look for them on Facebook. And on top of that, gift certificates make a great gift. Now, check out the website, as I mentioned, depetro.com. Brought to you by the Cohasset Inn. I was at the Cohasset Inn yesterday, 226 Cohasset Avenue, West Warwick. Perfect for parties. Some people were coming in. They were going to have a birthday party. There was a collation lunch there for 60 people. I think it was Saturday or sometime last week. Perfect spot of a birthday party or collation lunch, anniversary, wedding rehearsal, bunch of big group getting together. The Cohasset Inn can accommodate you. Plenty of free, safe parking. The Cohasset Inn, 226 Cohasset Avenue in West Warwick, and they also have the market open at the Cohasset Inn. Well, folks, a lot to update you with the real news. And I want to just touch on, sometimes I see things, and many times I ignore, admittedly, a lot of things on social media. But then I see something, and especially if it's posted, granted, if it's posted on one of my pages where I have a say, I certainly can't control. I mean, there's just so much nonsense out there. But I want to touch on, I also want to mention, well, these people that have these incessant questions. When you are asking someone a question, what you're basically saying is, I want your time. I want your time. I deserve your time. And I want you to take time to answer my question. I have a problem. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. There are some people that just ask questions to ask questions. But I want to get to this business of, I posted that the inmate is still on the loose that was, on one day he was in the ACI, the next day he was out, and he wasn't supposed to be out. And I posted that he's still on the loose with his picture and name and so forth. And this person posted, and I normally don't mention, I won't, but here's what they put. Who cares? What about the whole thing of the whatabouts, how about all the criminals in DC? Why aren't they in jail? Now, to me, without knowing the political background of someone that puts a comment like that, let's jump into that a little bit. Normally, and I don't know the political leanings of whoever put that. Normally, that is a progressive mindset. But I want to just step back for a moment. Are there, what about, well, forget about him. I can't stand, there's always the people like, oh, don't worry about, what about that? What about this one? What about, that is a mindset I can never accept or warm up to. So let's play that out a little bit and just plug that in everywhere. In Aurora, Colorado, Venezuelan gangs are taking over apartment complex. Who cares, says Rob. There are crooks in DC who should be in jail. Well, I am unfamiliar with who these people are that are being charged or on trial that should be in jail. But to answer everything to be who cares, we are, as other people have said, this is what we have seen over the last 3 years is when you have an open border policy, it becomes an invasion. But this person's mindset, who cares? Open the prisons, open the ACI, Open Walpole. Set them all free. Who cares about the Wyatt Detention Center? There's crooks in D.C. So let all the criminals go and focus. Like, that is what exactly is someone talking about? What kind of rationale is that? Without knowing the political leanings of someone like that. And normally, if I saw that somewhere else, I would ignore it. But when this person posts it on my page, who cares? I like the word honestly. Honestly, who cares? We should free all the prisoners at the ACI. We should open up Walpole and let all those prisoners out. Venezuelan gangs have taken over apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado. According to Rob, honestly, who cares? We should be going after crooks in DC. I would say we're able to do both. I would argue, why should we let people go from our correctional facilities? Because of crooked politicians in DC. If you want to go after crooked politicians in DC, one of the ways to do that is through the election process. That's one of the ways to do it, because then there's certain laws that could be changed and put in. But to say that we should just, who cares if people are coming over the border? Who cares if people are leaving our correctional institutions, Department of Corrections? We should be focusing on the crooks and like what exactly are you talking about? And as I've said, I think we are capable. To me, and again, I don't know this individual. I don't know that. If it was someone else, I just ignore. But what we're talking about right now is this election is really being decided. When people say it's illegal immigration, which this is still the number one issue. And by the way, the local media doesn't want it to be the big issue. Our national media doesn't want it to be the big issue. President Trump, I'm not going to say anything you haven't heard before. It is biased. They're so unfair. They're so afraid he's going to win. When he talks about illegal immigration, what a lot of people don't understand is it does come down to law and order. It does come down to safety. Nothing, as I've said before, nothing else matters if you're not safe. If you live in a neighborhood where suddenly there are break-ins in the neighborhood or people are being robbed, there are some people that just start to tolerate it. There's other people that move. If you're listening or watching right now at 1:14 on this Monday afternoon, a lot of people go through this, whether it's grandma or an old aunt or your mom, whoever. They still live in the house you grew up in, a house they have always lived, an apartment, whatever. And they're there until the night or day that they get broken into. And suddenly, what do people say? The neighborhood has changed. The neighborhood is turned over. And what do families say? We have to move grandma out of there. We gotta move my mother out of there. Each night with road patrol, I ride around through neighborhoods that at one time where it's hard to believe now, were very desirable homes and neighborhoods to live in. And it's actually, it's even fascinating and interesting to me. Some of those structures along Elmwood Avenue and Broadway and Westminster, Federal Hill, you don't see homes like that designed anymore. And you can imagine that some of them, it literally was 100 years ago. They were very desirable places to live. And some even as many as 50 or 60 years ago. Now, the amount of crime that is going on. And the crime is everywhere. And that's what I think the local media, and I know, I don't hear a lot of people running on Law and Order, yet it's everywhere I go. Now, this morning, there was a robbery, apparently in Woonsocket, and police are still investigating. I had a series of production meetings this morning, but there was a robbery. I posted the information on the Facebook page, and thank goodness no one was hurt. But it's in fact a robber hit a bank on Diamond Hill Road. So right there at the Milford Federal Bank off Diamond Hill Road, it's right on the Woonsocket Cumberland line. So granted, robbery, no weapons shown, but folks, this is I mean, like, what? Notice it's spreading everywhere. How many robberies have there been on that stretch of road? I would argue probably not a lot. Those of you that watch Road Patrol, there's how many? I mean, last week there were six armed robberies, or actually the week before, six. It's spreading everywhere. It's spreading everywhere. It's not just isolated. It's law and order that we need. And I'm convinced now. I mean, many times I try to find outlets that I feel will be somewhat objective. But it's right now, it's not your imagination. It is just such full panic that the national media and even the local, they're afraid, they want to frame issues that they feel are the most important, but it's not what people are seeing or feeling. And as I said, if people don't feel comfortable, if people don't feel safe, nothing else matters. We saw that as a country. You see it as neighborhoods. There's rash of break-ins or something happens. If people don't feel safe, it doesn't matter if you have beautiful home, beautiful lawn, beautiful property. If people don't feel safe in their home or neighborhood, then nothing else matters. We saw it as a country. What I meant to say was after September 11th, when we realized that all of these other, quote, priorities, none of it matters if we're vulnerable. And that's what I think. That I don't think, I know local media, they don't tie it together. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean. And during the first part of the radio show, I played the Patricia Morgan, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. It was only a half hour. I mean, here's what I wish. I wish it was an hour, and I wish there was also a debate on Channel 10, and I wish there was maybe a third debate. But since Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is comfortably, what he feels is ahead, he doesn't feel the need to debate. Other parts of the country, by the way, the Senate races, they have, three or more when it's really tight. Like Ted Cruz is in for a real race right now in Texas. But I want to remind you about, and I'm going to talk about the Patricia Morgan, Senator Whitehouse debate that was on Channel 12 that most people didn't see. And that's neither the fault of Channel 12 or Patricia Morgan or Sheldon Whitehouse. But this portion of the program, folks, is brought to you by AJ Home Improvement. Call them today, 401-323-9252. Frame to finish basements, acoustical ceilings, new homes, additions, commercial rehabs, painting, remodeling. They'll do it all. Call them for a free quote. If you want to have some work done on your home or some work done on your business, AJ Home Improvement, 401-323-9252. 401-323-9252. If you have an unfinished garage, you have an unfinished basement, why not get the inside of your home painted before the holidays? AJ Home Improvement. Free quote, 401-323-9252. Now, Donna asked me about who's the tree company that I recommend that could take out some trees around her property with dangerous branches. And Donna, the answer is JD's Lawn Care and Tree Service. No, it's not mine. I don't own it. I just promote them. JD's Lawn Care and Tree Service, 401-441-0154. They're based in Coventry. The Channel 12 debate, if it was that. All right, so Senator Sheldon Whitehouse gave his opponent, Patricia Morgan, Republican, a half hour on Channel 12. And sadly, that will be it. Did they address illegal immigration? They addressed it, but not like super address it. Now, as I have talked about, the top issue, that their first topic out of the box was about the Washington Bridge. And I'll say this about Patricia Morgan. I like Patricia Morgan. We've had her on. I'm going to vote for her. She's run for office before. I don't know if there's anyone with given a 30-minute back and forth with White House could. I think it's a Herculean task to say the least. But and I think if she did a couple more debates with him, she could maybe find a rhythm with it. She did fine. She actually did well. I don't excuse me, know if it's enough to swing the race. They came out of the box with the Washington Bridge. Okay, is the Washington Bridge important? It's certainly important to those guys, and they wanted to inject it into the race, and so they had that. But the top issue that can't be debated from the UNH poll was illegal immigration. I'm surprised she didn't mention that, and I believe that should have been the issue to lead the debate, not cut them off, really vent through, because Senator Whitehouse is on board with the open borders. In the Rhode Island media, I find that they don't want to embrace what an important issue that is. So, and Patricia Morgan, as I have given her credit, she has a billboard, close the border. It's so expensive. It's the deciding factor and issue in this race. And as I have said, I give credit to there's two factors. As much as the Biden Harris people say, what they did, plopping down 25,000 Haitians in Springfield, where apparently all the geese are missing as well. But by doing, they say, well, that's legal, but it shouldn't be legal. Those people went online and then they said, okay, you can come here for 2 years, but there's no guarantee they leave. The real damage done when Bret Baier had Harris last Wednesday on Fox. And listen, that's a tough spot to be in. And he was under a lot of pressure. And he had certainly prepared for it. And again, she's just trying to run out the clock. She was late. Then her people are trying to wrap it up. But I really come into, I think the one question he just should have stayed with was, do you regret the ending Remain in Mexico? Because that's really what it's all about. So with Channel 12, they did touch on it. I don't think enough. I hate when they interrupt that the candidates are going back and forth and then they say, well, we have a lot more to get to, so we have to end it there. I just feel, let them go. Let them go at it. Granted, they only had less than a half hour, but it is fundamentally changed all these different communities around the country, in our area, in Massachusetts. You've seen them camped out in Logan, and then the Governor Healy kicking people out to make room for them. That really registered. It takes a lot for something to break through that people really get a hold of. I believe Governor Abbott's decision, the governor of Texas, to ship them north, even at the cost of $50 million, whatever it cost, it brought the crisis to New York City. It brought the crisis to where the mayor was even complaining about it. It brought the crisis to where the media is centered, which is New York City. So the Today Show and Good Morning America and the Nightly News and The View, they can't ignore. It's not a problem in Arizona. It's not a problem in Texas. I mean, it's not just a problem there. They're seeing it right there. And then putting them up in these luxury hotels, and then you have to pay for it. So my point in mentioning that is, I still don't think, I don't hear anyone, and I now believe in this election cycle, tragically, we're not going to hear it. Anyone, what I call thread the needle and make the case of how much it impacts your life and the state. I don't see the media trying to do that, and I don't hear anyone running for office. If someone's running for office and they're making that argument, I don't hear it. Folks, I don't even hear they revealed Channel 12 that Seth Magaziner, congressman, that he doesn't even live in the district. And in the past, that would have been followed by a press conference the next day by the Republican challenger. I don't even know who the Republican challenger is. Gabe Amo. He worked in the Biden White House. He's for open borders. He's the congressman in the first district. I don't hear anything, a serious contender against him. Now, I want to touch on, though, where I think local media, and again, I'm not just trying to beat up on local media. Listen, everyone covers what they think is important. Every local media has the opportunity. Channel 10 says, we have success with high school sports, so we're going to cover those games and put it on. They have the right to do that. Channel 12, they seem to like to do more, Target 12 investigations and so forth. They have the right to do so, whatever. But I think there's part of this discussion that's lacking, and I want to touch on it. But folks, I want to remind you, if you're thinking of getting your driveway paved, contact J. Perry Paving today, 401-732-1730. Free quote, serving Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut. J. Perry Paving, high quality, fair pricing, exceptional service, free estimate for any project. So whether it's paving your driveway, or if you're a business owner, paving your parking lot, letter J, J. Perry Paving. High quality, fair pricing, and remember, nobody is better to veterans than J. Perry Paving. They have a special package for veterans. So whether you're a veteran, or your mom, or your daughter, or your grandfather, whoever, boyfriend, J. Perry Paving. Call them today, 401-732-1730. What I don't hear is anyone fully map out and thread the needle. And I admitted we don't see local media do stories on it, but I don't hear anyone explain why you should have to foot the bill for people from foreign lands to come in here. And then you have to pay, let's just talk about education, for their children to go to the quote, free public schools, even though they're not free, they're paid for by taxpayers. I don't hear anyone talk about how much it costs. Because as I have said in the past, I believe that is the fundamental issue. It never gets asked of Governor McKee. It never gets asked of Matos. You don't hear Seth Magaziner ask that, or Congressman Gabe Amo. So what type of costs? Just talk about the pupils in the school. Each student in the Providence school system is about 20,000. Now, if they don't speak English, some of them could be deemed special needs. So then the average cost per pupil rises to 22, 23,000. Plus they get free breakfast, plus they get free lunch, plus maybe they're involved with some kind of an after school activity. Why those families don't pay taxes. I'm not talking about gasoline tax. I'm not talking about tax at the liquor store. They don't pay income tax. They don't. And neither do the people from the Dominican Republic. They live in the DR. They come here so the kids go to school. They go back to the DR. They go back and forth. Many of them leave in December and come back in March. So, and they're not paying Providence tax. They're not paying state taxes. My point is, how come no one asked that question? Why do you have to pay for those families to send their children to the schools? What other type of costs? Look at the emergency rooms. If you're listening or watching right now, when's the last time you went to an emergency room? Try going to Rhode Island Hospital or Landmark or Kent. I don't mean try, but if you were to go to an emergency room, especially Rhode Island Hospital, if you were to go there at different times, many times at night, you don't see 2 or 3, you see groups of people Nobody speaks English. Somebody is sick. The whole crew goes. The whole entourage goes. They don't have health insurance. Who do you think is picking up the cost of that? There's a cost. There's definitely a cost. That's not free. So who pays that? You pay it. You have to pay that. That's then passed along to you. Governor McKee gave them all driving privileges. So what does that mean? It means your insurance goes up. They get into accidents. How many times when we're out on road patrol, hit and run person, they take off, or there's an accident, the people flee the vehicle. Many times those are new arrivals. What's the cost of that? You don't hear anyone talk about that. Many times we're out on road patrol. We show many of these businesses that are operating at night. Do you really think they have all the proper business licenses, going through everything a normal garage? But no, they're freelancing. They may work during the day. I'm not saying they don't work. They're definitely taking work away from businesses that have to pay business tax and the building and blah, 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 and everything else. My point is, we have a number of elected officials, because they're not leaders. I won't call them leaders. They're elected officials, and they allow it. They allow it to go on. If they were to take all the illegals, students now, out of Providence, Pawtucket, Central Falls, that's the mainstay. Then you get West Warwick. Then you have Woonsocket. Then you even have parts of Newport and some of these school districts, East Providence. If they started to, especially, you just talk about like Providence, let's just stay with Providence. It would probably cut the number of students in half that actually are attending the Providence schools, the Providence public schools now. If you were to cut the population of students in Providence in half that are going to the public schools, you wouldn't need all those schools. You would close a number of those schools. You would get rid of staff. My point is, the cost would go down. So it's not a real discussion from whether it's McKee or Magaziner or Sheldon Whitehouse. It's not, to me, an honest, genuine discussion, because they never want to talk about the cost. They never want to talk about how much it's costing. I get that a lot of them come here and work here, but not all of them do. And the system is not set up for people to be able to do it effectively. Folks, this portion of the program, you want to talk about work, we got to mention our friends at Dream Maker. Are you thinking of redoing your kitchen or bath? Call Dream Maker today, 401-433-7272. They have a beautiful design center, Greenwich Avenue, right near Crown Plaza. They are right next to Koch Eye. Dream Maker, 401-433-7272. One-stop shop, Dennis and Christina. You're going to deal with respect, integrity, customer focus. Transition from dreams to reality with Dream Maker. Experience upgraded living with your bath or kitchen remodel. Dream Maker. Call today, set up an appointment. If you're thinking of redoing your kitchen or bathroom, contact my friends Dennis and Christina at Dream Maker, 401-433-7272. So my point, just to circle this all out, and again, good afternoon. It is the John DePietro Show. This is the real news on this Monday, is because when the media just frames it as, and actually the UNH poll just called it immigration, but you don't hear any people debate about immigration. It's illegal immigration. But my point is, there's a lot of factors that go along with that. And I don't think they fully uncover the element of law and order, the cost, and the basic unfairness. There have been certain things that have highlighted. Now, I want to touch on, I mean, I was howling watching President Trump working the fast food window at the McDonald's, and then his back and forth with the people in the line. Whoever thought of doing that, his campaign, that was a brilliant move. I know the Arnold Palmer remark is getting, they were like lighting it up and so forth over the Sunday shows, but he actually did a very nice tribute to Arnold Palmer. He got to know. He was explaining why they had the golf course there in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and which I think of. I think Rolling Rock is based in Latrobe, but it was a beautiful tribute to a local guy, and they're at the course. So I know the media went, and I took it as he's feeling very confident, and they're having a great afternoon. And so he's just having fun. He just kind of ups it a little bit and has some fun. So I think a lot was blown out about that. But folks, locally, I think right now, I mean, it's so difficult to know where this is going to come out, whether it be in Pennsylvania, whether it's going to be in Wisconsin. Like many of you, it's so lame that we're on the sidelines and we're not part of the equation. And if we were a battleground state, you would have the different officials in and out. I recognize now there are people watching right now, and I see them put their comments that, oh, Trump's going to win Rhode Island, and everyone I know is voting for him, and I don't know what they're talking about. I would just challenge anyone that says that or thinks that. What you need to do, if you really want to get a pulse on the state and voting, it's the East Bay. It's actually both sides of the bay that kind of surround the water. It's the more as you go like north and west. The northwest is definitely red up around Burrillville. Then when you start to go to Scituate, and then when you go into the southern part of the state, you definitely have pockets. I mean, Johnston, President Trump will win Johnston. President Trump's going to do very well in Cranston. Warwick is a little bluer than you'd want it to be, but I mean, there's different pockets that he actually does really well. North Kingstown, he'll do well. Coventry, I think he'll win. But for the people that think he's going to win the state, that just tells me one thing. They don't spend any time in the East Bay. Because if you go to Cumberland, and then forget about it. I mean, Borrington, East Providence, Pawtucket, Warren, Bristol, Middletown, Newport. I'm just telling you, it's all blue. It's all Harris Waltz. The people that say, I think he's going to win. I think he won Rhode Island. I don't know what these people are talking about. All that tells me is, again, if you go to Johnston, a lot of Trump signs. You go to parts of Cranston, you see a lot of Trump signs in parts of Cranston. But it's the East Bay that is killing it, and the inner city. No one's going to convince me. I mean, without question, David Cicilline, he really took advantage of new arrivals, undocumented, their ability to vote, the unsolicited mail ballots, filling them out, collecting the ballots. Rhode Island, outside of Providence, Pawtucket, Central Falls, in many ways, the state could mirror New Hampshire. Now, I don't know who's going to win New Hampshire. The problem with New Hampshire is not the people of New Hampshire. The problem of New Hampshire, which is still this time around, it's not considered a battleground state. It's not. It has been in the past. But the problem in New Hampshire is there's so many people from Massachusetts that have either a home on Lake Winnipesaukee or they have a ski home, and then they end up voting there. They certainly did that in 2016 with Hillary, and they did that in 2020. My point is, though, if Rhode Island could clean up the voting and rein in the voting, then the state, in many ways, because it's the population with New Hampshire, it kind of mirrors that. It's just there's certain parts of of the state that are far more urban than New Hampshire is. But it would be very possible. But again, I it's not a battleground state. Either is Massachusetts. Massachusetts, it's a little bit different. I mean, they have some of that, but they also have a real blue core. And that said, they did have a Republican governor before Healy, which was Governor Baker. Rhode Island, I just don't see any evidence of anyone trying to clean up our voting. For instance, right now, why do we have early voting in Rhode Island and Massachusetts? Why do we have early voting right now in Rhode Island? You don't need it. I mean, I view it as maybe it's like a little extra perk, but you don't need it. It was started to stop lines. I mean, in Georgia, there's people in lines. In Pennsylvania, North Carolina, they're in lines voting. We don't have that. We don't even have lines on election day. We certainly don't have them on primary day. But I don't see anyone trying to rein in all this early voting. Why do you think they have early voting? If you want to make it more convenient for people, I could see doing it. I mean, I think you could do the weekend before. I mean, I don't like any of it. I think if it's important, you're going to show up on election day. I think that should be preserved. But I mean, if you were even going to go along with that, even just a week out, but like right now, the early voting is already set. There's no way that's not legitimate. The only reason there's no lines on election day. You want to vote, it's important. You show up at the polls on election day. But the reason they do it is they have figured out ways to manipulate the vote, and they don't want to change that. And I just don't see anyone pushing them on it. Folks, this portion of the Real News, and it's brought to you by Kids Club on the Pike. Stop in or call them or contact them. Perfect spot to have a gathering, birthday party, a youth team party. It's all designed. Kids Club on the Pike is designed for children of all ages, whether they're, a toddler, whether they're 2 years old, 3 years old, 12 years old. Kids, excuse me, Kids Club on the Pike. They're right on the Cranston-Johnston line. Kids Club on the Pike. They're going to love it. And there's so many right at Plainfield Pike. It's clean. It is state of the art. They have a movie room. They have a 50s style kitchen for the little party the kids could have. If you're the coach of a soccer team or a fall ball team or a cheerleading team or a youth football team, anything for youth, any children ages, I'd say 2 through 14, Kids Club on the Pike. They have Xboxes for kids, 10, 11, 12, 13. Kids Club on the Pike. Check them out. I think it's ideal. It's great for a birthday party, before and after school care, preschool. Kids Club on the Pike, right off of 295 on the Johnston Cranston line. Well, folks, at 144. So again, I want to commend Patricia Morgan. I think she's in a tough race. It's difficult to try to get some kind of leverage, gain traction against someone like Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. She brought out the fact in that Channel 12 debate that he talks about the environment and everything, but the wife has a big job with that. I think she was good and has been good about the fact that the state is a sanctuary state. The state does not have to be a sanctuary state. It doesn't have to exist that way. Rhode Island has laws that other states don't have. And my question is, why is that? And don't spare me the whole thing of we're a melting pot and blah, blah, blah. They don't assimilate. They don't assimilate. If you want to have, and the only thing we can hope for is that the election goes the way that it should, and then you start to have a system in place. When you have a company, there are large companies, and they need workers. And then in some of these other countries, there's the workers, and they want to come into the country, and they want to be here and work here. I have no problem with that. but it has to be organized and it has to be legitimate. And there's got to be a checks and balances. Our state is filled with people that came here on a visa from another country, and then they just overstay their visa and they don't go back. And they're disingenuous. I've interviewed so many of them, and they say, no, I came here legally. I landed at TF Green Airport, as an example, from Guatemala, and they were supposed to stay for 6 months, and that was 6 years ago. When we had the death of the little boy, Santiago, in Pawtucket earlier this year, now the people involved, they had been in the country, they had been in Pawtucket for a really long time, and they ended up getting deported because they were never officially here. And remember, the mother was such a loudmouth, and the mother on social media, and I have a good family, and threatening people. And well, the daughter got deported, and the daughter's lover got deported. So clearly they're not doing it the right way. But I think it's one of those issues that the media, they keep saying that it's dark, and a lot of the speech right now, and it's really going into negative, dark, dangerous territory. And you hear, the locals kind of repeat that. But what do you call the situation of people in Massachusetts being kicked out of shelters because then the new slew of people that just flew into Logan, that they get first preference? And I want to touch on the situation also with Matos and McKee in Rhode Island. But folks, this portion of our program brought to you by Watson Materials. Listen, largest selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island. They're right on South County Trail. Call Watson Materials, 401-885-0600. Perfect time to make the most of your outdoor space. Watson Materials, the complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island. Your landscape supply center is Watson Materials. Call them, 401-885-0600, whether it's landscape lighting or pavers or retaining walls or natural stone or cobblestone, decorative stone. Watson Materials. Call them today, 401-885-0600. Folks, good afternoon. Again, this is The Real News, and I want to touch on how when you hear the Democrat talking point, whether it's Governor McKee or Matos, and you hear some of the locals parroting this, and democracy's on the ballot, and this is all about preserving the democracy. Now, the national election put off to the side. Let's put Trump-Harris to the side. What I'm telling you right now, on this Monday at 1:49 on this October 21st, when Governor McKee says, well, it's important to preserve democracy, this is coming from, he lost day of voting. He lost day of voting to Helena Foulkes. The only reason that we are still stuck with Governor Dan McKee is because he signed a blank check to the laborers and to the unions and said, if you put me over the finish line, I'll give you whatever you want. And so they went out, and people voting twice, and they boxed out the Republicans in Warwick and went into all the different assisted living centers and anywhere where there was a breathing person, and got their name. And then all the nurses and nurses' aides are all part of the union. And they essentially completely hijacked the election. And he won by 3,000 ballot stuffed box, 3,000 ballot stuffed votes into these. So let me ask you, is that a democracy? That's a democracy? The voters did not want Dan McKee, and we're stuck with him. And look at the result. That's why I get angry when people say, I get angry when people say how, democracy's on the ballot, or this is the line that gets me. Well, elections have consequences, and I don't know why the voters keep voting for the. As I've told you, that's not how it went down. First of all, I hate cliches. I hate cliches, and some people, their entire life is just regurgitating cliches. But as I've said, Fung won day of voting. The voters wanted Alan Fung in Congress. The voters did. But then the unions, they took over Seth Magaziner's ballot operation, and somehow, quote, he got 14,000 mail ballots and Alan Fung got 4,000. So Magaziner, who doesn't even live in the district, goes to Congress. That's not democracy. They hijacked the election. So Helena Foulkes, that's who people wanted to win the Democrat primary. That's who they wanted. McKee and his crooked allies, they hijacked it. And look what Rhode Island is stuck with, a guy that nobody wants, who doesn't have a clue, who's incompetent, who's in over his head, and yet he's just a complete puppet to the special interests, which are the unions. Aaron Gukian, he beat Sabina Matos day of voting. He even beat her in Warwick. That's who the voters wanted. He should be the lieutenant governor. Well, then why are we stuck with Matos? Well, because the McKee people and the union people, they stuffed all the ballots with all these early mail ballots and got her elected. And we're stuck with someone who's incompetent. She tried to do the same thing with the signatures. And look what happened there. She ran for Congress. She wasn't even close. She wasn't even one of the top two candidates in that race. She's incompetent. She shouldn't be there. She's way in over her head. And then, so those three. So my point is, to me, it falls on deaf ears when they talk about forget the national stuff. I'm not even talking about that. And I also want to come back to, the day after I said that Alan Fung shouldn't have conceded. I don't think he should have conceded to Seth Magaziner. I think Alan Fung should have said, let's go inside these mail ballots. I'm not conceding. I want to see how he got 14,000 votes through mail ballots and I got 4. How is that possible? You had union members voting twice. Until we have legitimate elections, and I'm not talking about the presidential front, what we have right now, this isn't a democracy. McKee's not even supposed to be the governor. What you're seeing is the result when you hijack an election and don't give the voters what they want. No one has confidence in him. So what does he do? He pressures URI to put out a poll where they try to say that Governor McKee actually is very popular with 55% of the vote. Who believes that? Nobody believes that. He's not up for the job. He doesn't know what to do. He's Gerard Mayo right now. Gerard Mayo, do I think he's working hard as the coach of the Patriots? 100%. Yes. He's not the right guy for the job. He doesn't have the skill set needed. There's a difference. And boy, it shows in the NFL. There's nowhere to hide. There is nowhere to hide with that. And the NFL is brutal. You can't deliver. We're going to find out. We'll find someone who can. Ask the coach of the Jets. He was all psyched. Yeah, the coach of the Jets. He's the problem. I don't get that at all. The Patriots have a problem. Now, I'm not saying Belichick was the solution, but clearly Gerard Mayo was not the right person. He's not built for it. Sometimes people are built for different situations. He's not built for this. And the same thing with McKee. McKee, it's not even hard to figure out. All he wants to do is the fun stuff. McKee's like the grandfather governor. By the time someone becomes a grandfather, they say, and I hear from so many grandparents, what I love is I enjoy my grandchildren and then they go home with their parents. And they don't have to deal with all the school stuff. And they don't have to deal with the temper tantrums. And they get all the fun stuff. That's what Governor McKee wants. He wants to be the grandfather governor. He wants to be the governor that's why he loves like the Brown URI Governor's Cup and blah, blah, blah. He likes the fun stuff of the job. He doesn't like the hard part of the job. Look at the cost of the bridge. The laborers are completely running him. McKee's like a stooge says, we're going to replace it. And, to take it down, it'll be 48 million. And then they come back to him and say, we changed our mind. It's 100 million. And he just signs on the dotted line like a trained monkey. I mean, that is not leadership. They totally treat him like a puppet. Total puppet. And it's all to our detriment, by the way. It's all to our detriment. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Propane Plus. Call Propane Plus today, 401-885-4209 in Rhode Island. In Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus heating and cooling. They have a great, easy-to-use website. You just log on at propaneplus.com. Residential or commercial, it's Propane Plus. Call them today. You type in your zip code and boom, you get action. Propane Plus, 401-885-4209 for Propane Plus. Well, folks, good afternoon. The problem with the bridge is who's controlling things. We don't do things the way other states do them. This is people, normal, gifted, honest brokers don't want to deal with this cloud of corruption. They don't want to get involved with it. And I think that's very apparent with the situation. And they don't have a handle on it. Governor McKee doesn't. He's not built for this. The Mayor Johnston calls him Bailey Zappi. Well, Bailey Zappi is just a quarterback, McKee, it's Gerard Mayo. Was he? He was a great player. He was a great player. Nice guy. The Kraft screwed up the process of telling Gerard Mayo, you're going to be the coach of the Patriots. He started showing up late for meetings. What did he care? There was no formal process. There was no search. He didn't have to do anything. And now it's a disaster. And now they're 1-6. And Gerard Mayo doesn't know how to turn it around. He hasn't said, this reminds me, I was in a situation like this when I had a team and we started with a poor start, so I did A, B, and C and turned it around. He doesn't have any of those stories. He's never gone through it. And there's nowhere to hide with this. This is an embarrassment. Governor McKee, it's the bridge. He doesn't know what to do. Every time they say something, it doesn't happen. It'll only be 3 months. I meant 3 years. It'll only be 40 million or 50 million. I meant it'll be 150. I mean, everything he says just ends up being wrong. He's George in the episode of Seinfeld with the opposite. All right. Coming up, those on the radio, you're going to hear the 2:00 news. Everyone else, we will be out Road Patrol Live. It's a beautiful Monday. We expect some crime. Remember, we start each day on the radio at 11. We go till 2. Enjoy this beautiful Monday.